Hey y'all, I figured I would do a quick initial impressions of the TWM Performance Fastball. I had done a search on YouTube earlier, hadn't really seen many, or if any actually, videos really talking about it at all. It's a pretty self-explanatory shift knob if you read the description on the website, but I figured why not do an initial impression. This is a Delrin shift knob, which is very popular in the racing community, especially like drifting, rally racing. I believe they see it a lot in road racing. The fact that this one is completely spherical seems to be a little slightly on the abnormal side. Most of the Delrin shift knobs that you see, especially the racing inspired ones, tend to be more of a almost like an egg shape, kind of an oblong spherical cylinder type shape. So I am a big fan of spherical shift knobs, so that is why part of the reason I got this one. And I like the fact that the Delrin is temperature insensitive, meaning when it's like 100 degrees in the summertime, you're not going to burn your fingerprints off on it. And when it's freezing cold in the wintertime, although you're probably going to be wearing gloves anyway, you're not going to freeze your fingers to it. Which I've had several of the company TWM Performance's other metal weighted shift knobs, and I like their products. They do some very, very nice products. They make some very nice weighted shift knobs, which this one is not weighted. It's about as heavy as you would expect a shift knob of this size to be. But the weighted ones, especially, I have the Type R, I think the big Type R metal one on my 95 Civic currently, and it's a great shift knob when the weather is not in the extreme ranges. But where I live in the central East Coast, in the summertime it gets pretty damn hot, and in the wintertime it gets pretty damn cold. So there's effectively 4 to 6 months out of the year where it's an uncomfortable shift knob to use most of the time. So although it looks great and I love it, that was what led me to eventually get this, because the fact that it's weighted is nice, but I don't necessarily need the weighted factor. I don't think that really factors into my driving the car terribly too much. This one does not have the engraving, and as far as I could tell on the website, I didn't see any option to have the shift pattern engraved on it. Again, something that seems pretty common with the Delrin shift knobs. I haven't seen a lot where they give you the option for that. I expect because it's not quite as strong as a steel shift knob, but I still seriously doubt you're going to abuse this enough to break it. The threads on this one do go extremely deep. They go almost all the way through. Like, they leave enough material. Obviously it's not going to break, but it's going to let you mount this thing pretty much as low as you could physically mount it on the shifter if shift height is something that you are seriously concerned with. I'm not a huge fan of a super short throw shifter, so I'm probably not going to mount this at the minimum shift height, which also it does come with all of the necessary. When you buy it, they'll ask you what type of car it's for, or you can order it according to the thread size, like if you have a custom shifter or something, and that's where you'll get the thread adapter that you thread in there, so you can adapt it to whatever shift lever or thread pattern you're putting this thing on. This thing with the slot in it here is the height adjuster, in case, like me, you're not going to mount this thing at the minimum height. The jam nut that goes below the thread, you're going to want to put that one on first, obviously. And this tool looking key shape thing right here is so you can adjust that up or down once it's inside the knob and thread it all the way down and whatnot like that. It also comes with some instructions that look like they are primarily pertaining to how to work the height adjuster. I think they call it an ATIS technology. So these are basically just directions on how to adjust the height. If you're building some kind of show car or something, I could see where you'd want the shift pattern because it does look nice. But as someone who does have the engraving on my other weighted shift knobs, If you're not real particular, I would advise against it, because trying to get those shift patterns to line up straight with the console in the car and make it look just right, especially if you're going to utilize the height adjuster piece with the slit in it that they provide in here, if you're going to use that piece at all, it makes it a royal pain to get the shift knob lined up straight with the engraving and the shift pattern and all that. So even if they had offered this thing with the engraving, I probably wouldn't have got it personally, but I haven't used it yet. But it's pretty, we've had the windows open all day here, it's cooled down quite a bit. It's been sitting down here in the basement where it is pretty cool, and I can say it's not nearly as cold as something equally size, shape, something of a similar build but metal would not be. I mean, the handles on my dresser are metal and they're pretty chilly. So I think that about does it. Like I said, I hadn't seen any videos addressing the build quality or what it was like. Customer service with TWM Performance is always great. I've never had an issue with them. I've owned several of their short throw shifters and shift knobs over the years. They are pricey, but in my experience, I feel like they're generally worth the price. I mean, they're worth the price in the same way that I'm not 100% sure an iPhone's worth the price, but if you really like it, then it's worth it to you. So if you're really looking for the best top of the line stuff when it comes to shift knobs and shifters and stuff, I do recommend them. And like I said, this isn't one of their weighted ones, but if you need something that's not going to burn your finger, but this is probably really good for like a daily driver, maybe something that has a stock shifter, but you would probably be able to mount this lower than a stock shifter would let you mount the shift knob on most stock shift knobs. So maybe be able to shorten up the throw just a little bit. But anyway, my point is this would probably be good for something that's not a show car, something that's going to get used rather than shown off like a daily driver or track car, or just something you're going to drive the piss out of. So hope you enjoyed the video. Thumbs up, like, subscribe below. You know what to do.